Hello and welcome to this video about the Cambridge C1 exam. My name is Steve and I will be your teacher, your guide, as you join me hopefully for the rest of this series, going through different parts of the exam, what you need to do to pass, how you can practice it by yourself, what skills you need, and sharing some ideas like that. So we'll start with who I am. As I said, my name is Steve. I've been a teacher in the UK. I qualified in the UK, and then I moved to Spain a few years ago, where I've been teaching secondary school, business classes, and lots of Cambridge exams, as well as other English exams, but lots of Cambridge C1. So I think I know what I'm talking about. I've got a very particular set of skills that I've acquired over a long career, and the skills that make me a nightmare for Cambridge examiners. Although, of course, really, no, they want you to pass. We all want you to pass. And I'll be guiding you over this course. So I've called it Focus on C1 because you need to speak a C1 level in any language. You need to be fluent, so you need to learn general English. But you can do this in a smart way. You can focus on the skills they need in the Cambridge exam. You can familiarise yourself with it. You can get it. You don't have to go and live in London for 5 years to get to C1. There are better ways of doing it, smarter ways of doing it. Also, it's a funny name because focus, it can be funny depending on the accent. So we are focusing on C1. Here's what we'll be doing today as we go through this is like an introduction video, and then in future videos we'll get into more detail. But we're going to talk about general ideas you need to be doing for your English. These are things to keep in mind throughout the whole time. So number one will be keeping records, taking notes, especially for use of English, then the different skills we'll talk about, and then we'll give you a quick summary. Okay, so keeping records. You need 60% to pass, and it's important to keep that in mind, to think how you're doing in each exam. If it's an activity out of 8, you're going to need 5 out of 8, which is 62.5%. 60% overall, you can do better or worse in each part, but you need to keep that in mind, and you need to be honest with yourself. Don't tell yourself, I only got 3, but on the day of the exam, I can do a bit better. No, if you're only getting 3, you need to keep working on it. This is an example with a student I had where we do different exams, different times, and keep very clear records. Very useful because, as you can see, in use of English parts 2, 3, and 4, this student is always a bit weaker. They are not passing parts 2, 3, and 4. They are passing other parts, but not 2, 3, and 4. And then reading part 6 is also slightly weaker than the other parts. Let's focus on those. Let's go, what is more difficult about those? What skills do you need to improve in those parts? So that's an example of records. As you can see, I use a little program called Microsoft Excel. I'd really recommend something like that. It's one of these new tech companies that have, all software and everything. Really good for putting numbers in, and even does it automatically, so you don't have to do the calculations yourself. Next point I want to talk about is taking notes. And there's a smart way of doing it, isn't there? You're keeping notes, but you're focusing on what you need to know. So for each activity, what is the phrase that I needed to learn for part 1? What is the collocation? The answer is, for a typical example, you take a step. You take a step. That was the answer in the exam. Well, what you're learning is the whole phrase. It's to take a step, that those words go together. Or families of vocab, words that are similar. Typical C1, just to stay on that theme of steps. Different words for walking. You can amble, you can wander, you can trudge through the forest. These words all go together. Slightly different meanings. It's good to keep them in your notes, thinking, what are they asking me to do? And the same for the other parts. For part 2, the little grammatical words. For part 3, typical word transformations, grammar structures. And then for your reading and listening, vocab, phrases that are little clues for the answer. For speaking and writing as well, expressions that you can use, thinking of different functions, agreeing, disagreeing, elaborating, explaining. Any nice expressions, write them down, keep them in your mind. For all of these, this is very general. We're going to go into a lot more detail in future videos, showing you activities, showing you specific skills, showing you how to study. That's really what I want to get across in these videos. If I can teach you how to study in a video, if I can give you the idea, then you can go away and do it by yourself as part of your routine and really work on it effectively. So to go into a bit more detail for the reading and listening, I've just said go and practice exam activities. Of course, that's not enough. C1 is a very, very high level. You need to be immersed in the language, reading and watching things every single day. There are different ways of doing this. Don't say you don't like reading. You know, everyone likes reading. It's like it's telling stories, it's speaking, it's communicating. Unless there's something very wrong with you, you would like reading if you find something that's interesting. And this is what I'm going to go to in more detail in future videos. But how do you read? How do you study in a way that's effective for the exam? Well, there's different ways, and you can do these different ways that we'll talk about in different videos. Reading for the exam, thinking about what you need for the exam, doing some listening, doing vocab, doing speaking. There's all different ways of reading, and I'd recommend a mixture of these. And as I said, in future videos, we'll go into these in more detail, giving you clear examples of things I've done with my students that has worked for them, that has helped them pass the C1 exam. Same for listening, but with series, YouTube channels, podcasts, things that you're passionate about, things you're interested in, and making it part of your everyday routine, and then using it effectively. Don't just listen and forget it the next day. Write things down. Write a transcript, what I used to do when I was learning French many years ago, and it worked. It helped me. It's hard, but it helps. Thinking about what grammar you've just listened to, that is the kind of thing you'd hear in a C1 exam, or thinking how they'd make a question about this. All this in more detail in future videos, I promise. Stay tuned, keep watching. And similar for writing, you can practice this. When we get to speaking and writing, production skills, it's just practice, practice, practice. Find questions online, make your own questions. Watch these videos where I'll give you tips, phrases for how to approach each type of writing. And the same for speaking. Slightly more difficult, isn't it? Because you need someone. You need to find someone. You can go to class, you can do a language exchange if you're lucky and find the right person who's actually interested in talking to you. Can be difficult, but like anything, eventually you'll find someone. And watch these videos for tips, tricks for how to approach the speaking exam, where we go into detail about the kind of things you should be saying, how you need to be thinking to succeed in the speaking exam. So in summary, it's all about immersion. All these little tips I'm telling you, a little bit every day, little and often. And you need to work smart, not hard. I'm talking about active study. Just writing a list of 200 C1 words, I'm not sure that's a smart way of studying. You need to be looking at a text and thinking, okay, and if this text was on a C1 exam, what would they be asking me? What phrases come up here? What ideas are the complex ideas that they might ask me in the reading exam? And part of that is watching the rest of this series, watching the rest of my videos, doing what I say because I can help you get there. And finally, try to enjoy it. You are very lucky that you're working at this high level, which means you can understand complex ideas, humor, irony, emotions, stories, all these interesting things that we try to communicate in a language. So in summary, do all those things. Thank you. Goodbye.